Good morning. Basan tayo nating History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo in Guerrero. Nandito pa rin tayo sa part 3, Customs and Practices, and then paragraph Burial. Today is November 15, 2022. Basa. Burial, belief in life after death and in the relation between the dead and the living made the ancient Filipinos respectful of their dead. The deceased relative was placed in a wooden coffin and buried under the house complete with cloth. Under the house? Talaga? Ulit guys. The deceased relative was placed in a wooden coffin and buried under the house, complete with cloth, gold, and other valuable things. This was done in the belief that a well-provisioned dead person would be received with alacrity in the other world, while a poorly provided dead one would be received with indifference if not with hostility. Upon the death of a person, the people made fires under his house. Armed men acted as sentinels about his coffin, for it was feared that some sorcerers might take it into their heads to touch the coffin and thereby open it, thus releasing the accumulated stains of the core. There was much weeping, not only on the part of the immediate relatives, but also among the friends and even neighbors. To accentuate the depth of their mourning, the relatives of the dead man or woman hired professional mourners to chant for the benefit of all and sundry. The alleged good deeds and achievements of the dead as personal manifestation of mourning among the people of Luzon. The relatives wore white shirts or skirts. Among the other tribes of Luzon and Mindanao, the relatives showed their deep mourning by going berserk. Sometimes they wore rattan bands around their arms, legs, and necks. Usually, the mourning relatives abstained from eating meat and drinking wine. The ancients distinguished mourning for a woman from that of a man. The former was called morotal, the latter maglahi. Mourning for a dead chief was called larao, which was observed with more formal ceremony than that of the ordinary mortal. When a chieftain died, the event was immediately relayed to the whole barangay. Taboos were thereupon imposed, and anybody who had the courage to violate any one of the taboos courted disaster. She was punished by a huge fine, or by death, or by being made a lowly dependent. With the death of the chieftain, all wars or petty ulitin ko lang. He was punished by a huge fine, or by death, or by being made a lowly dependent. With the death of the chieftain, all wars or petty quarrels, if there was any, or ordered stopped. Spears were carried with the tips pointing earthward. Daggers were carried with hilts reversed. Singing in the boats coming from the sea or river was prohibited, and the wearing of loud clothes tabooed. What is loud clothes? An enclosure was made around the house of the dead chieftain, and anybody who trespassed on this enclosure was punished. Ang daming noong araw guys, sa patay. Ang daming batas. The superabundant display of lamentation ceased after the funeral. However, eating and drinking continued, and the higher the rank of the deceased, the more eating and drinking their bus. The relatives of the dead fasted and limited their nutrition to vegetables. Among the Tagalogs, this fasting was called sipa, where the dead man, a victim of foul play, or had he died in battle, the mourning was not ended until after any. Wait lang. Ang hirap nito guys, ilipat kasi nga dikit-dikit na yung pinaka-leaves ng book. Ayaw maglipat. Okay. Until after any of the relatives had exacted his vengeance. This act of avenging the death of a relative was known as balata. Normally, the ninth night after the death of a person was celebrated and was an inciso known as pasiyam. The activities connected with the pasiyam, such as staging a play in honor of the dead, were called tibawan, and the play stage was called tibaw. Divination and magic charms. The ancient Filipinos, like their contemporaries in many lands, both very much stuck in divination, auguries, and magic charms. They interpreted signs in nature such as the flight of birds, the barking of dogs, the singing of lizards, and the like as good or bad omens, depending upon the circumstances. Thus, the howling of a dog in the middle of the night precedes tragedy or death. Parang alam ko to, of a person. Parang alam ko to yung alulong ng aso, guys. Diba sabi may mamamatay pag umalulong ng aso. Sneezing, an ordinary human function, particularly when one has a cold, was considered bad omen, and those who for instance were about to go on a journey or to war were admonished to back out, for surely misfortune would overtake them. On the other hand, when a species of bird called salaksak crossed the path of the warriors on their way to battle, it meant victory. As to the future, the ancient Filipinos also had their monumental frauds in the persons of the soothsayers called pangatauhan, who were allegedly endowed with extraordinary powers to tell the fortune of anybody who cared to know beforehand what the days ahead had in store for him. Magic charms played an important part in the life of not only the ancient Filipinos but also of their descendants who believed in black magic and sorcerers who could victimize anybody to the drop of a putong. There was, for instance, the asuwang, known among the Europeans as Poltergeist. So yung aswang guys is Poltergeist, who could change his form from man to dog to horse to pig. There was the mangkukulam, who could injure any man whose face he did not like by the experience of breaking an image of a man in any part of the anatomy. The mangkukulam wanted to hurt the manggagaway, who had such power as to bring ang ano sa atin guys, itong mangkukulam, parang di ba pag may naiinggit, ikukulamin ka na ganun. Parang yan ang pinaka famous sa mga so yung naririnig mo, di ba? Mangkukulam, kulamin ko yan, ganun. Nandito pala talaga sa libro. In any part of the anatomy, the mangkukulam wanted to hurt the manggagaway, who had such power as to bring harm to anybody he wanted to destroy. The tiyanak, who took pleasure in sucking the blood of babies still unborn, and the tikbalang, who like the aswang could assume different forms in order to mislead a traveler at night. Talagang nangyari, diba talaga ito nung araw? Meron talagang ganito. Some Filipinos, however, were lucky in possessing amulets or charms. They were supposed to be insured against dangers. The anting-anting or agimat insured a man against weapons of every kind. The gayuma made a man lovable to all the ladies. The odom, a charm similar to... Natatawa ko guys kasi hindi ko alam kung ano pa to sa atin ngayon, applicable pa to sa atin ngayon. Ulit. The gayuma made a man lovable to all the ladies. The odom, a charm similar to the Tagalog, Tagabulag, made the Bicolano invisible, the Visayan, Wiga, and the Tagalog, Sagabi, could make the possessor of this charm walk in a storm or swim in a river without getting wet. Hala. And the Bicolano, Tagahupa, was mixed in a drink and made the unfortunate drinker a sort of vassal to the man with the magic potion. These beliefs, religious and otherwise, were not eradicated with the coming of Western civilization. Most of them were practiced behind the backs of the Christian missionaries, with the result that side by side with Catholicism, elements of paganism survived and penetrated the new religion. Today, in many rural areas and even in some big cities, the practice of Catholicism is a curious mixture of Christian and pagan beliefs, thereby making Filipino Catholicism unique. Economic life. Economic life during the pre-colonial days was not much different from that found today in many remote areas. The significant change is in the tempo of life. During those half-forgotten days, life was placid and characterized by less economic and social pressure than it is today. Agriculture, then as now, was the main source of livelihood. There was an abundance of rice, coconut, sugar cane, cotton, hemp, bananas, oranges, and many species of fruits and vegetables. Land cultivation was, as it is today, done in two ways: the kaingin system, in which the land was cleared by burning the shrubs and bushes, after which the land was planted to rice and other crops, until age. So abundant was the produce of the land that Pigafetta, the chronicler of the Magellan expedition which arrived in the Philippines in 1521, noted that Cebu had such foodstuffs as millet, sorgo, oranges, sugar cane, coconuts, gourds, garlic, lemon, and other fruits. On the way back to Spain after the defeat of the Spaniards in the Battle of Mactan, the expedition... natalo ba ang Spaniards doon sa Mactan? Wait ha. Ulit. On the way back to Spain after the defeat of the Spaniards in the Battle of Mactan, the expedition dropped anchor in Palawan and found the place abundant with the same foodstuffs as were found in Cebu, aside from sweet potatoes and roots similar to turnips. Significantly, Pigafetta noted cockfighting in Palawan, proof that this sport was not of Spanish origin, although later the Spaniards encouraged the Filipinos to indulge in cockfighting, not only to get more income from it, but also to preoccupy the minds of the Filipinos in such apparently harmless vice in order to prevent them from thinking of rising against the established order. Productivity was increased by the use of irrigation, ditches, and evidenced by the world famous Ifugao rice terraces of Mountain Province. These rice terraces, which are irrigated by a system of ditches, are stone-walled and run for thousands of feet up the mountain sides. From a distance, the whole gives a panoramic effect of a gigantic stairway leading to the sky. If placid end to end, the length would total an estimated 12,000 miles or halfway round the earth. There was a system of land holding which was public or private. The less arable lands and those along the mountain slopes were considered public property and could therefore be tilled freely by anybody with enough energy and initiative. Ang galing nung araw guys, o libre lang yung mga property. Therefore be told rarely by anybody with enough energy and initiative. So, kanya-kanya lang to ang ng lupa. Kung sino yung masipag, yun. The rich and cultivated lands, on the other hand, were considered the private preserve of the nobles and the datos. In some places, there existed what may be termed land rent, in which the cultivator of the soil paid a certain fee, in kind or in gold, to the chief or dato. Ulitin ko na lang yung guys, yung dito sa Father Juan de Plasencia, tapos ihinto na lang natin dito sa isang subparagraph. Para bukas na yung the daily food consisted. Ulitin ko lang ha. Father Juan de Plasencia, who wrote on the customs of the early Tagalogs at the time of the arrival of the Spaniards, claimed that the reason of this rent was that at the time of their settlement, there another chief occupied the lands, which the new chief, upon his arrival, bought with his own, and therefore the members of his barangay paid him for the arable land, and he divided it among those whom he saw fit to reward. So, bukas na yung the daily food. Bye everyone. God bless.